This is a study that said children of divorce have 60% higher odds of developing a stroke at some point of their lives than those who didn't go through the divorce ordeal as a kid. According to senior study author Esme Fuller Thompson of the University of Toronto, they said that the magnitude of the association between parental divorce and stroke was comparable to well-established risk factors for stroke, such as male gender and having diabetes. Meaning when we look at risk factors such as your age, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, for stroke risk, inactivity, they're saying having had parents who divorced when you were a child could be just as high a risk. That's pretty bold. Basically, a stroke, there's two major types. One is where you lose blood flow to the brain. A stroke is where your brain can't get blood, loses blood flow to the brain. It could happen by a clot or ischemic stroke, lack of blood flow, or a hemorrhagic stroke where there's a bleed. And if that vessel's bleeding, it's obviously not supplying what it needs to the brain. It's bleeding around the brain. And so strokes are serious. Ischemic are more common. And it's one of the top causes of death in the United States. But this doctor's team looked at 13,000 adults 65 and older with no history of childhood abuse. 7% of the group reported they had a stroke, and 14% said their parents had divorced before they reached adulthood. The study authors speculated that the higher stroke risk could be due to chronic stress, disrupting the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which controls our stress response. And a dysregulated HPA axis has been strongly tied to an elevated stroke risk. They also believe that these kids are at higher risk for high blood pressure, poor sleep, so that could also put somebody at risk, for stroke, as well as other medical issues. They say the youngest of the participants was born in 1957. So, as I said, there's some limitations because the divorce is a little different these days. But here's the thing, the moral to this is, it's not tell your parents to get back together. It's not that. The moral is stress. Stress puts us at risk for stroke. Stress puts us at risk of things. And was it the stress of the child going through that, where now they have two homes, now they have, two mommies, two daddies, now there's a new mommy, there's a stepmommy, there's a stepdaddy, whatever. Or is it that the stress is pervading in life? You have now 2 Christmases. Or if your partner also is divorced, now you have 4 Christmases. I saw that movie a few weeks ago, 4 Christmases, with Vince Vaughn and gosh, I always confuse her. It's not Christina Applegate. It's the one from Legally Blonde. No, oh my gosh. Anyway, I always mix up Christina Applegate, Alicia Silverstone, and not Drew Barrymore. It's the other one. Anyway, and so it was 4 Christmases. So they had to go to 4 Christmases because parents divorced, both sides, 4 of them. Well, 4 Christmases, 4 Thanksgiving. I'm in town. I have to visit the family. These are things that can cause stress. If there's always a new person in the family, there's a new boyfriend, there's a new girlfriend. Well, now you've added more people you have to now be family with that you really didn't sign up for. If that boyfriend or girlfriend or new spouse has kids, now they're a part of the mix. And so for some that could be great, for some it's not. And so maybe it's not just that there's the stress that happens in childhood, which studies have kind of looked at going, well, wait a second. A lot of these kids do better because now mom's happy, dad's happy, everybody's showering them with gifts. They feel like they're always in a loving home. They're not getting spanked as much. They're not getting, because nobody wants to lose custody, and so, so even though studies have kind of gone back and forth going, are some of the kids happier? Are they not? Either the disruption of that family unity, or the introduction of other people, or the fact that this just doesn't end when you move out. You now have that pervading you throughout. And, it's funny, when I was dating, I remember my girlfriends were saying they don't want to date anybody who's from a divorced family because that means they're going to divorce them. And I go, I don't know, because I remember hearing that my great-grandparents would sleep in separate beds. So yeah, they were married, but were they really married to separate beds? They didn't. There was no love in that house. So if divorce is a legal definition, which is another thing too, which I think is a limitation to some of these studies. There's a lot of people who are divorced before they actually divorce, where that marriage is over. There's already that lack of love, or they're already going off dating other people. So this reminds us, number one, is to look at our stress, whether we're of a divorced family or not. Look at our stress and figure out how to control your stress. Number two is understand that kids, even if they say they're fine, they might not be fine. Having separate homes, not knowing who's going to be their new dad, not knowing, these are things that could be very frightening to them. Knowing, because a lot of parents will kind of complain about the other spouse. How do they take sides? How are they there for mom or dad and they don't want to be a part of this? Also, they don't want to be like, well, you were bad mouthing me with mom or bad mouthing me with dad. No, I didn't want to be. It's just I had to spend time with one. It really puts kids in a difficult position. So if you are going through that, don't put those kids in that position. I raised my kids, and I'm very grateful that Corey's still married to me. Whew, I don't know what I would do if he ever left me. I'd be like, oh my God. But I've always was very honest with them about finances, honest with them about struggles and things, so that they, because I didn't realize how much they watch my husband and I. One time my son had a little skirmish with his somebody he was dating, and he was using the same sort of terminology. Let's do a timeout. Let's do whatever, and it's like, so they're picking up on how to save their relationship by watching how parents do. I love the idea of a timeout. I go, you know what? We're upset. Let's just talk about this about 10, 20 minutes. And usually by then we're not upset about it. Timeouts are fantastic in a fight. Everybody wants to yell and scream. And it's over something stupid. Really, it was just a toilet seat. It was just a mother-in-law calling. It was just we really don't have to break up over this. So always take some time, especially we were taught this in medical school too. Let's say your kid needs a whooping. We don't do that anymore, but back then in medical school, we were still whooping the kids, in figuratively in terms of punishment. And they said, stop. Just, if they do something wrong, take 10 seconds, breathe, and then address it. And you won't want to spank them then. So that timeout, or put them in timeout, put the kid in a timeout. That gives you a chance to fix the spill, put out the fire, do whatever. Relax, take a deep breath, and then just put things into perspective. But if you are going through a divorce, I feel for you. I don't know what that would be like. I could imagine that's got to be hell. And because you're going through hell, the kids are picking up on that. But just always be aware that these kids may need help, they may need counseling, and this might pervade well into adult life. 1-877